with what was the impetus for the reboot? And I know that it's not a remake of the original, but it's a new adaptation of the existing books. But where did this story start for you?
Well, for me, I'd never seen the 70s version, and I wasn't even aware of the books, really. And it was Karen Thrussell from Mammoth who sent me 2 books, just as I was about to go on holiday, saying, would you consider adapting these? And I didn't know them, and I think if I had heard of them at all, I was thinking they'd be just kind of a bit slushy historical novels, and I thought, well, that would be great to read on a beach. So I took them away, and I think I'd read about sort of 3 pages before I thought, wow, this is really good writing. These characters just kind of spring off the page. The storytelling is it's spellbinding. It just keeps you wanting to turn the page. And so I came back, having read the 2 novels, and I went out for lunch with Karen and Damien from Mammoth Screen, and they were sort of doing a big number of, you've really got to do this. And I let them go on for about 10 minutes. You really, really want to do this. And I was going, and I did, and then I just went, yeah, I really want to do it actually. so that's how I first came to them.
Yeah, and what about you, Ed? When did you come on board? How much later down the line, or were you involved at the beginning?
It was slightly later down the line, yeah. And for me, I think that, of course, I was far too young to remember the 70s.
I'm really depressed because I really do remember the original. and it was always on a Sunday, and I remember the original theme tune. Do you remember it? And that always made me feel depressed. It always made me feel depressed because it meant I had to go to bed.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there was nothing you couldn't have seen, though, in it, actually.
No, it's true, but I think it's because my parents had a terrible argument once about Anne Harry Breeze. My mother said to my dad, do you think I'm prettier than her? And my dad looked at me and just went,
hesitation.
No. And that was a big round, but anyway. So this was a big departure for you, Debbie, was it? It's the first time you ever...
Yeah, I thought they'd actually made a mistake. I was just thinking, why on earth are they asking me to do an adaptation? Everything else I've ever done is contemporary. I think the most historical piece I've ever done was set in the 60s. Yeah. And I actually didn't think I would be able to do it. I was thinking, how do I work with somebody else's characters, particularly when there's a wonderfully drawn? How do I put words into the mouths of characters that are not mine? And it was really extraordinary because I remember the moment where I had to come to write the first line of dialogue, because obviously it's all very carefully plotted out and what happens in each scene, but obviously there comes a moment where you have to write actual dialogue that's not in the book, because obviously a lot of the dialogue from the book is used, but there's some that I have to make up, and I was thinking I'll never be able to do this, and suddenly it all seemed to happen, and now I've got to the stage where, with no disrespect at all, because I think it's the process that you have to go through if you're adapting something, they feel like as much my characters as they are Winston Graham's characters. But I think it's easy because they're so beautifully drawn and they are so wonderfully articulated by their dialogue that I kind of I had such a great starting point, and I've now got to the stage where it almost feels like they belong to me, and I have to feel that, because otherwise I couldn't, it wouldn't be, I couldn't do the process if they didn't feel like that.
When you were starting with your script, did you predominantly just use the books, or did you reference the 70s?
No, I didn't. I didn't see it at all, and I thought it would be sensible not to watch it because I didn't want to be influenced in any way. And I'd written 5 scripts before. I thought, well, I'll just take a look and see if there's,
What was that like?
Well, it was really, really interesting, actually. First of all, because I could see exactly why everybody had loved it in the 70s, because the stories are just tremendous. The characters are, they also just kind of come to life on the screen. There's some fantastic performances, so I could see why it had been such a huge hit. But I was also interested in some of the choices that had been made, because they had diverged from the books quite considerably in some areas. So it was just interesting to see what choices they made and the kind of choices I had made.
Was there anything that sort of made you go, oh, what did they do that for?
Yes, but I don't want to spoil it. That's not in this first episode.
Yeah. So, so this first series,
Yeah.
Let's Be Hopeful,
Yeah.
is based on the first two books.
Yes. Yeah.
Isn't it? And
Yeah.
how faithful have you been to the original text?
Obviously, because there's a huge amount of material there and masses of characters, and then sadly we don't have a Hollywood movie budget.
Yeah.
So I've had to, obviously, I have had to make decisions about which storylines to follow. And obviously Ross is at the heart of the story, and therefore Demelza and Elizabeth, that triangle is there at the heart of the story. So some of the kind of smaller story strands that aren't directly impacted by Ross, I've actually had to take those out because we simply haven't got the space.
Yeah.
You know, when we first were commissioned to do this, it was only going to be 6 episodes, and I thought there's absolutely no way we can tell this story in 6 episodes. We were asked for another 2. I could actually wish I'd asked for 12, to be honest, because then we could have told some of those other stories.
Well, hopefully you could.
Oh yes, but even within the first 2 books, I would have liked to have had more. But you know,
I have to say, it's quite amazing to be able to go back and say, can we have another 2 episodes?
Oh no, it was fantastic to be able to do that.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, it was great.
So did you do heaps of research outside of the books?
I did quite a lot of research actually. I did. I read all about, well, various things. History of Cornwall, history of the industries, mining industries, pilchards.
Pilchards,
yes,
pilchards, Michael.
Yes.
I'm hoping there's going to be an entire episode.
Lots of pilchards. I mean, a lot of background. We have a historical advisor as well, who's fantastic. But a lot of background about what would be expected of people in various different classes in that era. My degree is in English literature, so actually I was very familiar with the literature of the 18th century. And yeah, I did quite a lot of background. We all did. You did a load of mining research, didn't you? Actually.
I'm sure you all want to hear
Did you two do research as well?
I read some books on mining in Cornwall, yeah.
Like
Riveting stuff. It really is. How about you? What's your research?
Yeah, I read the books, and I worked really closely with the historian, and we just plotted through exactly what Demelza wouldn't do that everyone else would.
You see, when we should have been researching, we were horse riding up in your
Yes.
The riding is very good, actually. Did you? I mean, obviously
Body double all the time.
You did loads of in the Hobbit, isn't it?
Yeah, I've done some in the past. Yeah, but we had we had a couple of weeks, didn't we, up in Yorkshire.
A lot of it is you, though.
Yeah, a lot of it is.
Not the
bits where you're right next to the horse.
Every time I saw you riding, the cliff edge, I was literally going, oh, health and safety.
Yeah. There's a few shots, but yeah, obviously, Ross is pretty adept on the horse, so I've become pretty good on it.
Was it uncomfy when you were both had to be
Awful.
on?
If you're at the back, you're finished. If you're a lad, done for.
Like being done up the wrong one by a cannon.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not comfortable. But very romantic to watch.
So, given the way you do adaptations of much loved iconic books, there's always that danger, isn't there, when you change anything significantly, because it makes people furious.
But I suppose
it makes some people furious.
Yeah, but if you're going to be worried about, because obviously you're never going to please everybody. I mean, even if I write something original, it's never going to please anybody. And when it's a much loved book, obviously everybody has their own particular view of it. I mean, I remember reading Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind and having a really specific image of what Scotland Sahara looked like, and then being slightly disappointed that she didn't match up as far as I was concerned. And in a way, I think people will have the same, they will have, the fans of the books will have very specific images in their heads of the key characters, and nothing will match up to those. And we accept that. And also there'll be people who don't know the books, and for whom this is a whole new, they've never heard of the 70s adaptation, they've never heard of the books, so they're coming to it completely fresh. I mean, I'd love to think that we would make people go back to the books, actually having seen it, because the books are wonderful. So I think in many ways we are starting with a clean slate. Yeah.
So Aidan.
Yeah.
Now, Ross Poldark, he's a little bit Heathcliff, he's a little bit Darcy, he's a little bit Cash in the Attic.
Yes.
Where did you start? Where was your starting point when you were considering, right, how am I going to play him?
Where was my starting point? My starting point was kind of the end point and the same point all the time. I just kept going back to the books and to the script. I mean, you can find inspiration from different places and different sources, and they're all really useful and it's enjoyable. I mean, I had a couple of months before I started shooting, probably even about 3 months before we started shooting, to research and to discover this character and find this character and to rehearse and do all sorts of different things. But it just keeps coming back to the script every time. You know, we will.
Actually, that's an interesting point. Is your Ross and is your Demelza? Is it the scripts Ross and Demelza, or is it the books Ross and Demelza?
I don't know if there's a massive divide for me with that one. I mean, my reference most of the time would be Debbie's scripts, but of course the book comes into play. And I was reading the books as I was reading the scripts from the beginning. I think when the offer came in for me to play the role, I think I got like 6 of Debbie's scripts and the 2 books in the same day on the offer.
To read it in a day.
Yeah. And then I googled it, I was like, what the hell's Poldark? And I googled it. Oh dear. I called my mum, she's like, you better not mess this up. But that was it for me every time, and the more I'd research and think about him and find out about him, and I'd read scenes with friends and different things, and then I was always coming back to the script, and especially the early episodes, just to find his voice, and through that his physicality and different things. So I don't know, it's hard to divide. I mean, those kind of like 12 weeks or 10 weeks from me are kind of strange. I was kind of all over the place.
When you talk about his physicality,
yeah.
Did you just
push-ups,
did you just sort of
crunches,
turn
yeah.
up, did you sort of sometimes just think, oh, do you know what? I'll just stand and look gorgeous. That'll do. Now, I'm asking you this because I know that I was told this story about Daniel Craig once, which I'll tell you after I've asked you this question. But did you at any point practice in the mirror your Poldark pout?
I got to swallow this first. The Poldark pout. I go on pout quite a bit. I just realised it's the first time I was.
There's a lot of eyebrows going on.
I think that's naturally what I do. Look at the state of these eyebrows. They're there for frowning. No, I generally don't think of those kind of things. I really don't. It just, they seem to happen, and they give themselves their own life, like the hair and everything else.
Yeah, the hair was good.
The hair is great.
Travelling Alex.
I made a big mistake chopping it off.
Yeah.
The samurai, I lost my tower.
The story about Daniel Craig is that apparently he practiced for hours doing the turn. You know, with the gun when he was James Bond. So, did you watch any of the original?
I didn't. No, and obviously that was a conscious decision because they're there. I think they're on YouTube and stuff. I mean, they're pretty accessible. Not that Mammoth would give me copies if I asked for them, but no, I just decided to kind of find it myself and see what that would come up with. I was afraid more so of sort of subconsciously or unconsciously emulating Robin's brilliant performance, and I was afraid of kind of not seeing the boundaries there and different things. And I just wanted to see what I could come up with myself. And I felt like I had enough material anyway. I mean, Winston's given so much in the novels, and Debbie's adapted them so well. I just didn't feel the desire or the need or something just to go anywhere else. If I did, I would have done, but I didn't feel like I needed it.
He makes an appearance, doesn't he, in 2 episodes?
Yeah, Reverend Pulse. Yeah, he's great. He's brilliant in it.
Well, when we first got the go-ahead, he actually got in touch with Mammoth just to kind of say, this is fantastic, really wish you well. And we thought straight away, oh, I wonder if we could persuade him. And he's been so supportive all along. He's been absolutely brilliant. And of course, he is fantastic. He is great. Those scenes are amazing, aren't they?
They're fantastic. They're great.
So what can we expect from your version of Poldark? What sort of man is he going to become?
Is he? I don't know. He's a contradiction of a lot of things. I think he's quite conflicted. I mean, in this first episode, I mean, it's a great place to start for a character. It's a dream for an actor, really, to start off in that position where the character comes back to town with, you know, the place completely changed in his eyes. You know, his dad has died when he's been away. The land that he's inherited is completely desolate, and cottages he owns are falling apart, and people are leaving, people are starving. His family industry, the mines are diminishing. But the one thing bringing it back was Elizabeth, was his beloved, this promise, this wish she had. But it's not her fault, just don't say that. But then it's ruined. I mean,
Dead to me.
I think that's quite unfair. She thought he was dead.
I hope she gets typhoid.
I know you don't mean
Or
that.
dies from a bad pilchard.
But he's strong. I mean, I think many weaker men would have galloped to London. You know, there's nothing to hang around for, it seems. But I think Ross, I think he knows his roots are in Cornwall, and I think he believes that he's like inherently the only person who can really save save it. I mean, there's a lot of people dying and need work and are impoverished, and he's in a position to do something about it, and I think he feels that responsibility. So it's one of the reasons why he sticks around. But he's not just this benevolent, saintly character, he's also a bit of a rebel.
It's a little bit of Russell Brand of his day.
The hair is similar.
A little bit. So Eleanor, let's talk about Demelza now. Sort of in terms of the characters who go on a journey, my goodness, you know, you've got sort of the biggest one to go on, haven't you? In this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a part, you know. Boy, episode 1. Married with child, episode 5. Sorry. Yeah, amazing role. I've always said I'm repeating myself amazingly with this quote, but it's the Scarlett O'Hara of roles. And they just don't really come along for actresses, and I leapt on it.
But she's the emotional heart of the show, isn't she? There's sort of something of the Eliza Doolittle about her, isn't there?
Definitely, I think. Yeah.
Did you feel any sort of weight of expectation playing her, given that she's such an iconic character?
Yeah, massively. When I first heard they were making it, I sort of may have spoken to my parents, and they went, "Oh my God! Wow!" But I didn't want to watch the original series too much, but at the same time, you'd be stupid to ignore Angharad Reese's performance and how she managed to capture the heart of the public in the way that she did. And so I watched bits of it in order to try and capture that with my own portrayal of Demelza. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of pressure. You know, it was a tremendously successful previous adaptation, and I'm really nervous about it coming out.
You're absolutely wonderful. And I heard that you pulled out all the stops to get the part.
Yeah.
You auditioned.
Yeah, I wore my brother's clothes. Yeah, originally. Yeah, you were there, yeah. I hadn't got a clue who you were either, sorry. Yeah, no, I did. Originally I was asked to audition for Elizabeth, and I felt that I read the scripts and I was like, I really like Demelza, she's amazing, please can I audition? And so I kind of begged the casting director, and eventually she went, fine, yes, okay. And so in I came, in my brother's clothes. And
what specifically did you wear?
I wore his Christmas present, which was a very kind
What, a Christmas jumper?
No. It was a jumper, and it was this kind of very baggy jumper, and I remember him being so pissed off that he wasn't allowed to wear his own Christmas present, and that I was going to an audition in it. But yeah, and I wore kind of army boots and just refused to speak to anyone for the entire audition, and kind of kept this gormless expression on my face. But yeah, it was, I've never really done that before either. I don't know what came over me, but
It works. Yeah.
I mean, at the moment I saw that jumper already. No, it was wonderful moment. You know, we'd sort of, I think, this sort of endless sort of procession of emails and phone calls and messages from Susie Paris, our wonderful casting director, that she had sort of heaped on her from Eleanor. It sort of, I guess it kind of flagged up Eleanor's enthusiasm for the part. And she really did come in. I get told I look like a tramp, but she came into the room and it was an extraordinarily large jumper. I do remember that. What really came out of it was she walked into the room and she was delighted. Yeah. And I think, you know, yeah, it was just a real joyous experience working with them. Sorry, I'm getting emotional now, but you know, I mean, they are so giving, you know, and fearless.
So let's talk about what it looks like, because you've made it look incredible. It's incredibly cinematic, and part of that obviously will be down to Cornwall, which is very much a character in its own right in the show. But the first thing, well, not the first thing that struck me, but one of the things that I kept wondering about was that obviously lots of actions happening on the cliff edges. And what were the logistics of getting a film crew up coastal paths? Because, you know, I've walked the coastal path of Cornwall and they're not easily accessible.
Well, you just asked nicely. No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Cornwall as a character in Poldark is so important, and that was going back to your first question, which I never finished answering. You know, sorry. that was one of the things that really sort of excited me about it, because it's, you know, it's been part of my life for as long as I can remember. And you know, it's wild, it's unpredictable, it's beautiful, you know, just like Aidan, and there's this you know, sort of wonderful kind of energy and beauty to the landscapes that, as you say, you know, you see, you know, use exactly that word. It's incredibly thematic, and you know, with having that kind of team, I guess, and that sort of backdrop, it was extraordinary. And you know, we started off doing interiors, and then we went to do exteriors, and the whole project for me just absolutely sort of burst into life, and it was wonderful to that point, and it just sort of stepped up a gear from then on. And in terms of sorry, what was the question? In terms of health and safety, no, I mean that's all fine. I mean, I think one of the sort of really striking things, it's kind of it's not sort of hanging people off cliffs, although we'll get to that. But I mean, it's you know, Aidan, we did a day's filming at Nampara, right, you know, well before the start of the shoot, because we wanted to see Nampara in different seasons. So when he's dry stone walling, you know, that's a winter scene. And you know, the art department gave him sort of some bits of polystyrene, and he was saying, "I don't want that," you know, and he was sort of picking up all these great big rocks, and you know, you're thinking in terms of health, safety, and the sort of you know, the shoot all kind of proceeding nicely. And I was kind of standing there as he's hefting these great big bits of rock up, and I was scared as he chucked them on, and they're massive, great thuds. And you know, you're thinking there's a 20-week shoot coming up, and he's going to have a hernia. But so it's the little things, and then I think, you know, then right at the end, and Aidan, I think you saw the first shot when Aidan, you know, day one, shot one, Aidan Turner gallops towards the train with a sort of breakneck speed.
Yes.
Aidan did say, you know, is that a good way to start a shoot?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And then of course, right at the end, before we handed over to Will McGregor and his wonderful team for the second half of the series, there's, you know, obviously, you know, it's not the end of the relationship between the two of them. They do get to know each other quite well. It's not too much of a spoiler. And there's this scene in episode 2 where Demelza Ross comes back from the night on the town, and he's naked in the sea, and she's leaning over the cliff top. And you know, so, you know, it's at moments like that when you're just about to sort of hand the whole project over to someone else, and you're thinking, so he's naked in the sea, she's hanging off a cliff top. Is this good? You know, but it's a beautiful scene.
It is a beautiful scene, but the thing is, when I had written it, I was imagining that, you know, it was going to be rough Cornish weather, you know, the sea.
Or shallow water at the very least.
No, I was actually thinking that it would be, you know, cold, a grey morning, and the waves would be kind of, you know, flashing in his face, and actually, and it ends up looking like a Greek island. That's the problem. It was flat calm that day, wasn't it? You had to sort of splash water on your face.
So when you're doing a period drama, as the director, is your first inclination to always be absolutely 100% true to the period, or are you looking at ways to sort of make it relevant for a modern audience? Is that something you think about?
Yeah, I think in terms of a style and approach, I think that that's informed. First of all, everything's informed by the story, and that's your starting point. And then you take it from there really. And I think first of all, when I first read the scripts, the first thing I thought was, this is more in a foreign land. This guy comes back from it. There's this sort of unrest at home. Winston Graham chose a very, very specific point in time to set the story, which is key to what's going on. And also you've got the rise of the sort of banks, and through the character of George Warlegan, wonderfully played by Jack Farthing. So you've got this kind of contemporary resonance which is there in the scripts, and I think it's just a case of taking that forward. And I think, as you saw from the trailer at the end, and also through episode 1, there's so much energy, there's so much life that Aidan and Eleanor and the rest of the cast brings to it. That it's really a case of it's a case of representing that, and I think and also there's something about Cornwall, there's something about the Poldark novels, there's something about these scripts that just says no formality, please. Yeah. So I think you've got to speak to that.
I think you've just brought the whole thing absolutely alive. I'll put it this way, it's way better than the one in the 70s. Sorry!
Controversial!
Right, it's your turn. So, get your I think there's going to be a roving microphone. Lady there, red striped top. It's up there. When you have your arm up, keep them up so that people with the microphone can see you.
Hi, should I stand up? Or?
You can if you want to.
I'll stay down. I was just wondering, since the period drama genre has a lot of important movies and series and all, what do you think sets Poldark apart in a couple sentences each?
What sets Poldark apart from other period dramas? Is that right? Mm-hmm. Downton Shabbing.
Okay, well for me what sets it apart is that because I'm a great fan of things like Jane Austen, for instance, what sets Poldark apart for me is that you get all of the great, the kind of delicate nuances of the relationships and the kind of traditions and those kind of the balls and the tea parties and all of those kind of small domestic scenes and relationships, but you also get massive big set pieces like riots or the fight that you see in episode 1. So there's a huge scale to it, as well as the very precise small domestic details of ordinary family life. So I think it's just packed with, you get the best of everything really.
And wonderful characters.
Yeah.
I would just say time and place. I think Cornwall at that time is an untold story. It's a fascinating history, but it's not a history lesson. This is a wonderful drama, and it's articulated through the characters beautifully. So I think there's always that depth there. That depth was in the novels, and it comes through in Debbie's scripts. And I also really hope the other thing I think that sets it apart is in that again similar to what Debbie said, in the depth of that detail, where it is about balls, it's about society on one level, and on another level it is about poaching as a necessity, and I think all that interacts beautifully. And also I think maybe doesn't set it apart, but I think the romance is quite important too.
Gentleman there.
Thank you. Hi, question for Eleanor. As you mentioned it, what was it like to be with child and to have a baby in this drama?
It was amazingly challenging working with children. And we had about 4 babies, one got fired.
Why did one get fired?
It wasn't with the union.
So it was really interesting for me just working with the different age groups of baby that came into play, Julia, and it was lovely creating that kind of family really for Demelza, you know, when you travelled with her that far. When you're not shooting in sequence as well, that's quite challenging, because you go from baby bump to, you know, urchin in the same day, and it's a bit like, thanks guys! But yeah, I mean, it's always challenging working with children and animals, but not Barley, because Garrick is amazing. But yeah, it was.
Lady in the green down there. I'll just say that for everyone. What would you?
What do I most admire about Ross Poldark, and what would I change? What do I most admire? His strength. He's strong. He's resilient. He's not. I guess his default position is to help people, which I quite like. He suffers in spite of himself. I think yeah, him wanting to help people, him being strong. He doesn't feel sorry for himself. If he feels down about something, I think he's got a lot of grit. I think he can sort of pull himself up by his bootstraps and get on with something. He doesn't sort of, yeah, he doesn't wallow. I like that. He's like a real sort of like an old school sort of iconic hero that way. He's not a new age man in that respect.
Would you change anything about him?
Would I change anything about him?
Give him some pants. He didn't wear any.
Yeah. In the second episode, give him some clothes. I don't know if I change anything. I don't know if I would. That's I'd think about that.
Lady back there with the specs. You got your hand up? Yeah.
Hello. Thank you, Aidan and Eleanor, for being so kind earlier when I met you. But this question is directed to Debbie, sort of tied together with Cornwall as a character. So a place is more than the land it's sitting on. So what customs and qualities of Cornwall's people, so both positive and negative, did you want to sort of export to a global audience?
Well, I really wanted to, obviously I wanted to do justice to all the things that were described in the books, but I realised that obviously there's a lot of customs there and traditions that we don't really, in the present day, know very much about. So we basically had to do quite a lot of research and take a lot of advice about how we would stage things. I mean, there were lots of things, and I don't want to really spoil too many things, but there were various set pieces, big set pieces that we, which are customs, traditions which are specific to Cornwall, and we wanted to really make sure that we got the detail right as much as possible. But I think that although there's a lot of customs and traditions which are specifically out of Cornwall, in a way there's a kind of universal quality to them. There's a lot about the community and people kind of pulling together and doing stuff together, which isn't just specific to Cornwall. And it's why I think, as a story, it will have universal appeal, because those values are universal, and they will, they will resonate with, hopefully, with a global audience.
Lady down here in the hat. The lovely hat.
Hi. Do you ever feel stressed before a first day of filming? For example, how do you feel for Poldark for the first day?
You feel stressed?
Yes, he does.
Before we start shooting the whole thing, or like every day? Every day. Yeah, every day. No, I don't think I feel stressed. Ever, really. I mean, before we started shooting, you have those days. It's like before anything.
The read-through is always a bit scary.
The read-through is terrifying, and always is. But every actor kind of finds some things a bit weird. you know, a lot of actors give a lot to read-throughs, and some just read, and you know, you find your own sort of place, but everyone's listening, there's producers there, and everyone's hearing the voice for the first time, and that was particularly scary for me, because I'd been cast on the back of no auditions. It was the first time my employers had been there, Ross Poldark, I was like, oh shit, they're going to fire me. It was terrible, and Irish lad coming over doing, yeah, no, before we started shooting, yeah, a little bit that weekend, I remember in Bristol kind of thinking, God, it's all about to kick off. More anxious for the whole shoot, hoping everything went well. I mean, there was a proper realisation I had just a day before we started shooting, or 2 days before. I remember thinking, I can't get sick, or I can't injure myself if I come off the horse, if I jump off, if I do anything, if I roll an ankle, if I sprain a hand. It might shut production down, or really, you know, mess things up a little bit.
Because actually you had like no days off.
It was almost no days off.
No days off at all, every day.
You know, it would have messed things up a little bit. So I was quite fearful of that, because that was out of my control. And anything I couldn't control, I get quite nervous about. But because things like that can just happen. But in regards to playing the part or playing the role, not really. No, just hoping everything goes okay. You know, the smallest thing can happen on set to slow up a day. That might take 2 hours. A bloody crane thing doesn't work for a camera, and anything can happen that makes you lose scenes per day, and that weighs on everybody. And not one time. But yeah, I mean, those things I get a little bit stressy about, but playing the role, no. I mean, when the clapperboard comes on and they do the action thing and you're doing it, no, it's fun. You know, I like it, I enjoy it.
Joe, that happened in Killing 3, that one of the lead actors broke his leg. And so for 3 episodes, in every scene he's in, he just takes one step in and stops.
I don't think we could have done that, really. We would have been really stuck.
Up just there on the end of that row there. No, here, there, on the end, there we go.
Is it safe to ask something that isn't to do with Poldark?
Sorry?
Is it safe to ask something that isn't to do with Poldark?
Is it to do with the Hobbit?
No.
Oh, okay, go on then, you can ask. You can ask about the Hobbit though.
Aidan, have you heard anything about going back to Mortal Instrument since they've decided to make it into a TV series?
That's hilarious. Do you know what? It's really weird. It was only a couple of days ago, and I tell people this, and I don't look up stuff, and I don't read things, but I saw an article somewhere, and it was to do with something else, but Jamie Campbell-Bower was on it. It was a little bit about him. And it said he was going back to shoot the sequel of Mortal Instruments. I haven't heard a bloody thing.
You will not be available.
Probably not. But I was really surprised. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard a thing. Unfortunately, it was good fun, and you know, the cast all got on and all that kind of thing. But no, a
lady down here with the blonde curly hair and the black top.
Thanks. Hi. A few of you agreed, right, that you thought Ross, was similar to Heathcliff. Am I right? Yeah. Well, I'd kind of like to see you defend that claim, because as an English lit student and a feminist, I don't think that's such a positive connection there again.
I don't think we said that he was just like Heathcliff. What I've always said is he combines some elements of Heathcliff, Mr. Darcy, Rhett Bottler, Robin Hood, Rochester, a whole selection of, what are thought of as iconic male characters from literature. I wasn't making any kind of value judgment on his personality. I was actually saying that he has elements of all of those different characters.
Yeah, I think the key difference is that Ross grows from his experience. He's proactive.
Yeah.
Lady down here on the front row.
It's a sort of general question, really, but particularly for the actors, that you're in the lucky position of being able to go from film and television. And it seems to me that television is a much better format now to really tell stories properly and develop character. I mean, how do you feel about that, sort of going back into films? And then, I mean, do you feel a difference as an actor? being able to kind of develop characters over a long period, like 6 episodes, 8 episodes?
I think they're making some fantastic television series now, and you know, it is the age of television at the minute. I think a lot of the film scripts aren't as strong as the television scripts. I think there's a luxury when you're working on film of time and budget, with TV series you don't have that. It's very much, you know, quick, and you have to trust in your cast and your director, and it's pretty stressful, but it's I think it's the way forward. So.
It's hard to make the comparison. I mean, certainly when you're talking about maybe a lead character in a feature film or something, I mean, you can always drop in. I've just finished a film in Ireland when I was on for 10 days, and it was weird to step on set every day to a crew that I know, but I haven't clicked with properly, because you don't really get the time, and you might do 1 day on and 3 days off, and maybe a half day on, and you know, it's so sporadic and all over the place. It's hard to really get into it. This is 8 hours, and you know, 6 months shoot, and it's so long, and there's so much of it. It's hard to compare the two. And to invest in a character, you know, over 8 scripts is wildly different to something that might only be 90 minutes long, regardless of the size of the role. So yeah, no, it's a huge difference, even on that part. And as Eleanor said, when you're shooting something, the TV world is quite different to feature film. Feature film is a lot slower. For this, yeah, it's a massive privilege. I mean, you never get that luxury of rehearsal, and I think it was only a week, which isn't a lot anyway. But even just to work with Ed and Debbie, and for us to hang out and to read and different things, and that's all it really is in the early days and the first few days anyway, is reading. But it's great to have, and usually you just rock up to set and just start doing it in costume and stuff. And it's a bit odd, but yeah, no, we had that luxury.
But I think we all felt that we really needed to have that week, because we kind of needed a sort of bedrock of a kind of common knowledge of where the characters started out and where they were headed, because actually it is pretty rushed on even in TV. You still just turn up on the set sometimes and rehearse once before it goes on camera, and so it's, you know, when I started out in TV, which is a long time ago, we used to have like 2 weeks rehearsal for, you know, we used to actually rehearse the scenes, not just kind of talk about them, but we would rehearse the scenes. And of course, there isn't that luxury anymore. Lots of programs don't have rehearsals at all. So we think that, you know, we consider that we were very fortunate to get what we did get, actually.
We might get 2 more in, but the lady at the back there.
Hi, it's a question for Eleanor and Aidan. You both mentioned reading the books. How far ahead did you read? And if you read beyond the scope of this series, did it influence how you portrayed the characters at the beginning, knowing their trajectory, I suppose?
Yeah, it's interesting. How far do you go with something like that? I read the first 4, and I guess you can keep going. It's probably only better, right, that you should, you know. I just felt with me and the way I kind of work and get my head around things, I just didn't want to, I'm not that smart, I didn't want to take too much on, you know. I just wanted to focus on a particular sort of time and story. So for me, the benefit was not going further than that, but yeah, they're there, aren't they? Winston's given us time.
Last question, make it a good one.
Oh, good. No pressure. Firstly, I've been watching television drama for a very long time, including the original Poldark, and I think you go a very long way to see an opening hour as good as that, so congratulations. Question for Aidan and Eleanor. I know it's difficult over all those months of filming, but is there a particular scene or set piece that you'll sort of take to your grave as particularly memorable during that shoot?
There's loads.
Yeah.
I can think of a ton.
Swimming.
Not one that's fresh in my mind. There is a scene with Demelza. It comes when Demelza's been sort of fossicking and searching through one of Ross's trunks and finds a dress that used to belong to his mother, right? She likes to wear it, so to clean up the house with it. And Ross doesn't. And Ross is quite surprised and doesn't take too kindly to that gesture. That scene I quite like. It's the first time they really get quite intimate. It's quite an emotional thing.
Yeah, that scene I hated. It was the audition scene. And it took me yeah, I had so many favourite scenes though. I couldn't kind of pin one down in particular. But
it was always fun on location.
The scene actually. Yeah, that was really good fun. watching Aidan get spray tanned was
How
great.
dare you? That never happened. That just didn't happen. It just simply didn't happen. She's lying. Number 2 on the call sheet, she's lying. It's cold, right? It's cold now.
Everyone in this room thinks that's the thing. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. I hope people enjoyed.
Oh yes, sorry. There is one question. Thanks, John. Somebody had a Twitter, had a conversation or a competition. Lynn had a question. Where is Lynn?
Ah, sorry, hello, Lynn.
You've actually touched on this question
Ah.
a bit, but it's, do you find it daunting to reinvent Fox after Robin Ellis's performance?
Yeah, daunting. Not daunting. Well, see, I didn't see it, did I? So that's why. That's half the reason. I would have been really scared. I would have been petrified had I seen his performance. How am I going to do this? But not so much. And you know, people say that too. You know, playing such an iconic role. You know, are you scared or are you kind of? Do you worry about what people will think and if they like it and stuff? And I guess as an actor, you know, you just have to. Everyone has their own opinion, I guess. But you just have to kind of focus on the job at hand and trust that what you're doing is right and that people will trust your choices as the actor in portraying this character and that you've been cast for the right reasons and that everything is in the right place and it just works. There is a lot of negative things you can sort of approach or concentrate on, but they just don't pay any dividends.